Good day, friends. I didn't think that I'm going to post any more videos from my last one, since my life have changed quite drastically and I lost like 99% of my previously available free time. However, these so-called anti-coronavirus measures have shut down pretty much everything, including studies and military exercises, so suddenly I got some spare time. The spare time coupled with madness all around me, so I kinda feel like I have to post couple of videos now. I'm not going to say much about virus itself. Hopefully there is enough information to keep yourself safe and aware, like avoiding crowds and affected countries for a while, eating healthy, having good rest, etc. Anyway, most of those things that could be discussed about virus itself are more or less obvious and well known. Viruses are nothing new. Viruses mutate, but they also get weaker while adapting to humans, like some other viruses did before, and now we don't hear about them anymore because they don't cause much troubles. Some other things, like China's Communist Party being a pile of crap, or the fact that dependency on China's manufacturing was a mistake, or the obvious importance of national borders, or the fact that every country should spend less money on government and refugees and instead spend more money on our own vulnerable elderly people to ensure that we have some healthcare reserves to outlast the outbreak of any disease. All these things were pretty obvious long before coronavirus hysteric. Therefore, we are going to concentrate on this hysteric itself and the consequences of these so-called anti-virus measures. First of all, it's painfully obvious that what we saw was a pretty idiotic reaction from many governments across the world. Instead of securing borders and not letting the virus in, which would for sure somewhat hurt economy, but at least would preserve its inner parts largely unaffected, instead of this, we saw quite the opposite: lackluster prevention coupled with draconian and hysterical measures threatening almost every economy sector in a particular country. Everything was counterintuitive, because now we know that it's not an apocalypse. Instead of scary videos from China where people were allegedly dropping like flies on the streets, we now understand that things are not that bad, that virus has relatively low mortality level and it mostly affects people with serious health problems, which is not a reason to ignore it or to let someone die without helping them, but it's obvious now that looking back at this year, we will see just a small overall increase in mortality rates, not some sort of death of humanity, which is exactly what some governments and media pictures. But manipulation with statistics and fear-mongering will not change the very fact that seriously ill or elderly people can't die twice, and many of them would die this year without any coronavirus whatsoever. So if you think about it, we will get a decrease in mortality in every other serious illness, starting from lung and heart diseases and ending with cancer. Coronavirus itself is not a black death, but it is dangerous for already endangered people. If you want to get a real picture, you should measure mortality in average, including those future decreases in mortality, because people can't die twice, and what we see now is a mortality of a limited pool of people. So many of the graphs you see where they picture some sort of exponential and eternal growth of death rates are manipulations. It might sound a bit cynical at first glance or too pragmatic, but if we are about to make some grand decisions based on the fact that people are dying, then we have to get a clear picture, not hysterical manipulations. We were fed enough of this on every issue before, starting from guns and ending with climate change. So we are presented with some dubious peak figures while assuming that somehow it can go like this for years unless we hide in caves and give all the powers to government or global institutions. But no, it's not true. Not only viruses of this type tend to lose its deadly capabilities, where are now SARS or MERS, but with enough young and strong people beating this virus, you can start gathering antibodies from serum to support immunity of other people. let alone people who can get through these without complications, will be effectively blocking spread of this virus in future. So in any case, this is very far from being the last hit on humanity or the reason to give up on all your rights and to transit all the powers to your beloved government. And that's where the catch is. With all this hysterical screaming, not only people are paralyzed, not only they starting to look after some sort of big brother, they lose ability to think. They are overwhelmed with fear and thus lose ability to prioritize threats properly. Now, I'm not sure what is happening in your country, but here we are starting to think. Unemployment increases already beats coronavirus victims by thousands of times, and it's only beginning, as what we have now is partially mitigated by early March economical stats. After a month of these self-destructive measures, we will get a full-scale crisis with high chances on a recession. And this is what makes it all even more absurd. So government supposedly is concerned about health of society, and then it takes measures which are ruining lives of millions because some people died. Supposedly died from a virus, oftentimes at a very old age, oftentimes having multiple dangerous diseases. Died just like billions of people before them. Is it about healthcare? Is it about preventing people from being ill? Well, to justify what government is doing, we would have to separate health and nutrition, separate health and being able to visit a doctor, health and being able to buy medicines, health and being able to get rest and good sleep, health and stress, health and money, health and being employed. We would have to separate health and being able to choose less dangerous jobs, health and depression, health of workers and being able to pay workers decent salaries, their health and being able to give them best work conditions, etc. Literally everything in this world will affect your health in a certain way. But is there a better way to make sure that the health of a man will deteriorate than putting him in a situation of deep economical crisis? Preventing him from paying for his rent, for his food, forcing him to eat crappy food, making sure that his workplace, even if it stays, which is unlikely, will never be as good or comfortable as it was before, drastically increasing probability of suicides, etc. So apparently pushing everyone into a huge crisis is somehow making their health better. Because now they won't die from coronavirus, which was a low probability anyway, but they could die from a flu, from a malnutrition, from not attending doctors, from not having conditions to treat every freaking other disease except for COVID-19. How is this madness any better for health? How is closing your business, firing dozens of people, turning your life into unstable crap is better than having coronavirus somewhere around? Oh, and there is the topping for this stupidity. Even with all these measures, virus is expected to re-emerge again after summer. Pretty much every honest scientific prognosis makes it obvious that even with tough measures, second wave is imminent. It was never a surprise, it was never a hidden knowledge, it's just something our government or media or historical parts of our society tend to ignore. The real question, why all of this is ignored? When people are witnessing something as organized and destructive in the same time, they go for two answers. The first one, oh, our great and wise government is so progressive that it goes along with all the other wise leaders of the free world. Obey, folks, we are under siege by this evil virus, no time to think. Or the second version. They react the same way because they are organized into secret organization and everyone is following orders. They ruin everything on purpose because they are pawns of you know who. While it is painfully obvious that your typical modern-day government is hardly great and wise, it's still a good idea to analyze how modern political conditions and mentality are paving roads for horrible ideas and destructive reactions. First of all, there is that idiotic mentality of a Swedish girl. "Oh my god, we must do something! It doesn't matter what, just do something already!" This feminine mentality is plaguing our society today, and this is the real danger. You can treat COVID-19, but it's freaking hard to treat society that operates on historical feminine pattern of reactions. It started to be a problem from the times when women got right to vote, but it became much worse when women mentality got into politics and turned those who thought to exploit it into modern-day politicians. They started to be affected, to be forged by the psychology of masses of their voters. It is two-way street. You are granting voting rights to women to use them, they are demanding something, you adapt and change, and finally you enter in some sort of symbiosis where you are interdependent and shaped and influenced by each other. The second big reason is the system of power and its roots. Modern power doesn't come from dynasty, religion, greatness, or even military successes. It comes mainly from two sources: from collective power and resources of governing bureaucracy, and by forming dependent classes of people who can't exist outside of accepted pattern, and therefore don't challenge the status quo. If government would care about your safety, it would advise you to wield knife or to buy a gun, but they don't want you to be a subject of ensuring your own security. They want you to stay on the level of object of their care, or simply being dependent on them. This is why whenever government comes up with some plan to protect people, people do not emerge as more resilient, tough, brave, independent. They turn into even more dependent herd. They will avoid by all cost any possibility of waking up some fundamental instincts or, God forbid, raising your rank in hierarchy by making you stronger. They will make sure that the center of your life will be shifted towards the state and government instead of being somewhere around your family, your religion, or your compatriots. Therefore, your responsibility will be turned into law-abiding responsibility. Your role is small: obey, inform, snitch, avoid, refrain. Big Brother will take all the burden from you. Government care should only increase dependency, and you should only react and adapt to those new regulations or rules. All the societal, all the religious or family structures and institutions, despite being very complex and important for your country and civilization, should never produce a meaning of its own, should never create an idea outside of existing dependencies. Whenever governing classes take care of you, you will end up less and less ready for next challenge. You will be discouraged and lost, looking for protection. That is the idea, to take you away from structure of society and to connect you directly to government structure. It's like those pathological relationships where a woman gets angry when man goes to gym, loses weight, or becomes a better man overall, because she found him when he was a simp, fat, poor, and had no other choice but to be with her, and now suddenly she feels threatened. In healthy relationships, a man becoming better is a reason to be happy, but the government is not in a healthy relationship with you. You are weak and they want to feel power. They want to preserve current disbalance. Epidemic, even exaggerated, is a great chance for them to show you your place, to remind you who you are and to whom you should run after help. If it crashes economy, well, so what? Does it break the main rule of not making you stronger or self-sufficient? No, quite the opposite. Thirdly, there is probably a financial reasoning behind this bold crushing of economy. Even though people get poorer, top ranks of bureaucracy operating budgets, distributing taxes are not going to be the most affected. In fact, many of them could be the future owners of some businesses that went through hardships and got the market and share price dropped. Some of those people might end up in nationalized industries with huge salaries, sitting on some, councils. Some might want to hide dubious schemes they were involved previously. Who will investigate that strange contract when there is a global crisis? Another reason might be a herd mentality, especially in some less significant countries who are not leading trends but follow them. Governments are not formed from people with strong backbone, so being affected by media hysteria or by screaming of some loud minorities or NGOs is totally possible. In fact, a lot of bureaucrats, even in big countries like Germany, are incredibly pathetic breed, a product of corrupt party system without any leadership qualities. So it would be quite hard to imagine them standing against anything big. Lastly, we can't exclude the fact that totalitarians were talking about great hardships that we can overcome only as a global world. They promised wars, they promised climate change, the end of world because of oil or because of melting of icebergs. Basically, they try to use everything from their fear-mongering deck of cards against nations and free people. There are different opinions on whether globalists and totalitarians benefited from this Chinese virus or not, but there is no doubt that every problem would be used by your local totalitarians in their own game, even if they just jumped on the bandwagon. It might seem very organized, of course, as it happens in Europe, in Russia, in China, and it's like global concentration camp being built separately. But it's difficult to distinguish between different motivation and reasoning. Is it globalist totalitarians or just local kleptocracy strengthening its hold? Or is it just natural tendencies of governing classes? Or maybe just the local habit of treating people like crap? There are a lot of factors in it to give just one universal answer to why things are heading certain way. Anyway, one thing is clear, there is one road you can never go wrong with. Keep your social circle, family, religious community, military club, or whatever you have. Don't lose connection with them. Overcome hardships together. Approach everything the state offers you with the question, will I emerge stronger? Will my social structure stay self-sufficient, or will it be broken and splintered to be reconnected to government programs and structures? But don't fall in extremities. National organization is good. It's just the fact that government is less and less national and religious, so it's not yours organization anymore. Virus exists. There is very small chance of it being a total hoax, but this is certainly not an end of the world. There is a lot of statistical manipulation going on, that's for sure. Even though there are manipulation, there is no need to take risk for no gains, and it won't hurt to take precautions and to take care of your parents and grandparents and to make sure they eat healthy, know what to do, and have ways to avoid being exposed without necessity. Remember that health is not a separated issue, it's a combination of factors. Don't let anyone tell you that being a homeless and hungry is better than contracting infection. Plus, you have high chances anyway when the next wave emerges. One last thing to remember, if someone can take away your rights under false pretense, under fake hysterical reasoning, you never really had these rights. Apparently, they were not deserved. They were only inherited. Therefore, it takes actual modern-day efforts to preserve what was inherited. Otherwise, things will deteriorate very fast. Just like inherited wealth is so often lost by stupid hair who lacks qualities of father or grandfather. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. Sometimes it might mean staying at home to prevent contracting infection. Sometimes it might mean disobeying orders of wannabe slave owners. It's up to you to prioritize threats. One thing is clear, no virus in this world is ever gonna be as sinister and deceitful as your typical beloved government and self-proclaimed prophets of progress. And no virus in this world is ever gonna be as stupid as masses of cowards who have no other meaning in their life except for staying safe and alive. Anyway, probably I'm gonna release some additional videos as this hysteric made so many problems obvious, and it hurts to see how everything is so twisted and distorted by this madness. It hurts to see yesterday's sane people turning into cowards and starting to glorify totalitarian measures, or how some believers, former believers I would say, turn into scared herd whose only concern is survival at all cost, at the cost of their faith and their values. So anyway, you might want to check this channel next Monday. Have a nice day, guys.